imagine that your hour is worth like X amount of dollars. So whatever you can do to create that hour, if that's cheaper than that, do that. So like I try to not do things that someone else can do.
Most of the people, they're not inflating it. Resume is what gets you in the door. You have your own ethics.
For some roles, when I was trying to go for product management, I wrote product strategy and GTM. I'm not lying, but I'm not necessarily inflating either, but I'm just reframing it. So that's how I would do it.
Boss 언니들.
Hi, thank you for having us here. It's nice to be back. Amy was my former manager at TikTok.
I actually also am a Haas alum, so go Bears!
So we'll be going back and forth. It's all going to be around career, family, and navigating the corporate world as an Asian woman. Do we start with an intro?
All right. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Amy. My family, actually, my mom and I came to the States when I was 12 from Shanghai, China. We moved from Shanghai all the way to Oklahoma as the first landing location. So that was a big, huge cultural shock and change for me. And I did my undergrad in computer science at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. I navigated my career at Intel, Cisco, Google, TikTok. I became a manager at Google and then eventually became a manager of managers. And then when TikTok recruited me, I was their SMB product marketing global head, managing both their global and regional PMMs. Balancing being a mom and a minority in the corporate space has been exciting. Lots of learnings I can share with you all. Sora, your background is actually also pretty exciting. Why don't you tell them?
Yeah, so I met Amy at TikTok where I'm working on the creative solutions on the product marketing side. I have a global role and I look after all the creative products to help advertisers to create ads on TikTok more effectively. Previously, I was at Meta for 6 years. I was a PMM there for creator-related products, Reels and Live. So my job was to think about how can we get creators to care more about Facebook as a platform. So that could be creator monetization, etc. And then before that, I was global head of paid social on Facebook. So believe it or not, Facebook is actually one of the largest advertisers on Facebook. And I managed a $500 million annual advertising budget on Facebook, managing a team of ad buyers who buy ads on behalf of Facebook. And then before that, I was a media lead for Facebook Watch, which is their AVOD, like advertising supported video on demand platform. I also was the media lead for WhatsApp. And then before I was at Netflix for about 3 years working on launches, like digital marketing side, global launches and original launches, including launching in Asia. And then before I was at a couple startups here and there. And outside of work, which I spent a ton of time on, I am a budding creator. I was on a Netflix reality show last year that ended. And from that was a springboard for my content creator journey. And then I have a 5-year-old son who's over there, Jackson. He just opened his early birthday gift, so he's pretty excited right now. So you mentioned that you worked at several companies and then Google, and I'd assume you'd have several jobs there, and then you moved over to TikTok. Like, let's talk about what prompted those transitions and your most recent transition of getting out of the corporate world. Like, what was the reason and how did you go about them?
For me, I started at Intel right after my computer science degree undergrad. I hated coding, so I looked for a company that was looking for people with technical backgrounds and had a leadership program specifically focusing on training these people to become technical sales and marketing individuals. And that's how I got into the sales and marketing space to begin with. And then that's when I actually decided to do my MBA at Haas because I wanted that transition and the credential that helped me find a future position. For Google, that was actually purely after probably 2 years of trying to get into Google and applying for different roles. One thing I remember was don't look for the jobs that I thought is the perfect title, meaning like I was in marketing, so I was only looking for marketing roles, but I ended up was hired as a channel program manager because the job description actually had a lot of marketing elements and they were looking for people with actual experiences that aligned with the job description versus just the title of the job. So that's how I was able to make the transition into Google. And then from there, I did all kinds of, it's essentially all marketing jobs, performance marketing, growth marketing, channel marketing, partnership marketing, tried a lot of different things and realized what I liked and what I didn't like. And that's how I also made the transition into management as well. The TikTok one, they talked to me for probably a year and a half. Hey, do you want to join? Let's find the right position for you.
What about you that made them pursue you for a year and a half?
It was very specific for both the SMB space and also product marketing, and the fact that I speak Mandarin. And they wanted a manager that can help bridge the gap between the two cultures.
I think for me, it was always about the manager. Your relationship with the manager, I think, for me at least, has a big impact on my mental health and how motivated I am. And every transition, it was, I don't like my management, and then me look for other opportunities so I can go back to my manager or go back to my skip level and help me put on a different team. And then I ended up just getting a better offer, so I just went. So that's what happened from Netflix to Facebook, and then from Facebook to TikTok. So I interviewed for a number of roles within TikTok, including a PMM for Live. Tell us about your coachings.
So it is kind of crazy that I gave up a really hefty paycheck. So when I was at Google and when I was already a manager, I wasn't as fortunate as some of my peers, where I felt like a lot of people I knew from earlier on, they knew their passion, they knew what they wanted to do, they know the path they wanted to go down, and I didn't. But that's when I started to realize, when I became a manager, I am genuinely passionate about developing people. And fundamentally, I truly believe if you invest in your people, invest in your teams, then that's how they would want to work even harder and give you back even more. This is a second career for me, and this is something that I'm super passionate about. I can't tell you how happy I am every day I wake up, and I am energized to work hard and building my solopreneur business. Make sure you follow what you truly want to do versus just looking around you and try to follow other people's dreams.
So I actually have a question on that. So I think a lot of you here are looking for jobs right now after MBA, and the job market is super tough. So in that situation, what advice would you give those students? There are a lot of things I want to do, but they wouldn't hire me because there's a lot of people with that experience from these big companies who are laid off competing with me. So then at this point, what should you be optimizing for if you can't get what you ideally want?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing, it's always good to know what your dream is. The reason I named my coaching practice Dream, Plan, Do, Live is it's a very simple framework. You have to know, what do you want? What makes you happy? What are your core values? What is your purpose? What do you really want to do? To have a general North Star to help you as you're looking for these jobs. Because you can, being a Ha student, you're probably going to be able to find any kind of job out there that's going to pay you money, right? Finding the job is not going to be a problem, because sooner or later you will find something. But finding something that's going to, like I said, gives you energy and leverage your superpowers, what's really important to me. For me, family is really important to me, but I'm going to be working until 10 p.m. every day to chase that promotion. Then either my value is not that important to me, or I need to do something different. And also know what your superpowers are, or what you're known for, what you're actually good at. Now, don't just think of it. Hopefully you can ask your peers and your ex-coworkers, figure out what you're known for and what you're good at, because those are the things that you can actually leverage and really talk up during your interviews. And if there are skill sets that you currently don't have for the ideal job that you're trying to get, then go and figure out a way how to get those. You have to be practical as well. I have this ideal vision of this ideal role, but sometimes you may not have the skill set that they're looking for to fill that position, and you have to be realistic. Just having the passion is not going to be enough.
So on that note of superpower, so I do get asked a lot, how do you know what you're good at? You said to get feedback from those around you. Is there anything else tactical that you can provide?
If you go around and ask your past managers and everything, sometimes in your past performance reviews, that information will come up. You'll start to see themes that people always talk about. What are you good at? What are you strong with? And also you'll start to notice like when do people come to you at work? So this is the personal branding. What are you known for? Like Sora's the kind of person I know anytime I have something creative or like I have a speaking engagement where she can really get people involved and can get people, worked up about something super exciting, then she's the person I go to. Then that becomes her brand. You really need the feedback of people around you.
I think the point about understanding what you're good at, your superpowers, and also you don't have to promote all of them. If you're a product, think of yourself as a product, and there's like 5 things that's amazing about your product. You don't necessarily have to promote all of them. It will depend on the audience that you're talking to, right? So I think that exercise also needs to happen. I read this book called The Startup of You by Reid Hoffman. I really highly recommend that book. So it helps you think about if you're a startup, what are your strengths? Where do you want to go? And like, how do you actually get there? And also in that, think about the market. There are things that you are good at and that you want to be known for, but if the market doesn't care about that, like you're not going to get a high paying job. So it's kind of essentially that.
Oh, and then one tip, because since I also help people review resumes a lot nowadays, is don't list everything on your resume. Think about what actually are valuable to the people who are reading it. So you have to think about what is the unique value you bring and what are specific examples of impact that you were able to drive with those skill sets. That's going to set you apart.
Yeah, I think it's really similar to startups. Like a lot of startups may begin like we want to be the all-in-one end-to-end solution, but like what is that killer feature that's going to get people to actually try your product and maybe try other features too? What is that killer feature that you should think about for yourself as well?
And one thing, I think a good thing that always is a good reminder for me is you want to make it easy for people to find things or find the key points on your resume. And there are plenty of other people who are much more concise and very specific with the value they bring. So as a hiring manager with a busy life, why would I spend the time to sift through things if I don't have to?
One advice that my friend gave me actually at Haas, she was at P&G and she said, pick 2 or 3 things that you care about for that half or for that year. Only do that. Everyone else, like you don't really need to. And also, I don't know if you learned this in operations, at a hospital or where you have a waiting room and you see staff just waiting around, like people think that they're not busy enough. It's like it'll piss people off more. So you don't have to respond immediately. Like I think it's good to like let them think that you're really busy. And then for me, that helps me prioritize things. And then they don't bother me for things that they can do on their own. And I can say this because you're no longer my manager. But so I try to outsource as much as possible. And I forgot the name. It was an almanac of something. In that book, he says, imagine that your hour is worth like X amount of dollars. So whatever you can do to create that hour, if that's cheaper than that, do that. So like I try to not do things that someone else can do.
I would say go back to think about what's most important to you. It is not easy because, the entire first year at TikTok, for example, there were a lot of late night meetings. And since I managed the global team, there were morning calls and evening calls. And there became times where I would go home, see my children, wave hi, and then go back to meetings. That's also why I started to think about what's really important to me. Why am I working that hard? And what's my goal? Is my goal to get to the next level? Is my goal to just provide enough for my family? Or was I so scared that I was going to get fired? Time management, at the end of the day, you have to really just think about what's important to you. If something is really important to you, you will make time for it. Then think about, is it something that's truly of value to you, or do you need to do something different? Yes, the AI piece is true, but again, like I said, depending on the company, it's still the human beings looking at the resume. So when I was hiring for all the PMM roles, for example, the recruiter would go out to LinkedIn and search for the keyword and then start pulling different resume pieces. So I would say think about leveraging LinkedIn and your resume as 2 key places, because when I was hiring, I would tell them very specific things that I was looking for that you typically see in a JD. And so look at the JD that's a common profile of the type of job you're looking for and what are some of those common things, and then make sure those words are in there. And it's not just about putting those words, the so what, why you. So you have to be able to demonstrate to say, I'm a product marketing manager who did X to deliver this value. Then that makes it uniquely to you. And then to your second piece on inflating, this is a really hard thing because a lot of the Asian people that I talk to, this is a really interesting and intricate concept. Most of the people, when I look at their resume, they're not inflating it. I think about resume is what gets you in the door. You have your own ethics. I don't recommend anybody lying, but you also have to think about people you're competing with. They will be sharing more details of this is the project I did. Here's the outcome of that project, and I played a key role. Versus I just did this piece of the work. You always think about my piece of work enabled what? And it's okay, totally okay to put on the resume to say that.
Yeah, I think that's very Asian thing too, being really humble. Imagine how pissed you'd be if your peer inflated the resume, helping people understand what you did, right? So I was a product marketing lead at Meta, but for some roles when I was trying to go for product management, I wrote product strategy and GTM. It's not a lie. I'm just helping people understand and framing it differently. So I'm not lying, but I'm not necessarily inflating either, but I'm just reframing it. So that's how I would view it.
As a coach, basically, if you get a good coach, the coach is there to ask you questions to help you think more clearly about what is important to you. Like, I have no intention of like pushing you one way or another.
Thank you so much for having us.
Skincare.
If you want to hear more from her, go to her LinkedIn and you can book time with her for her coaching. You can also find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Boss 언니들.
Hi, Jackson. Hi, Jackson.
Go there.
Go there.
Go there. Yeah.
Jackson, what is this? 짜장면. This is where mommy used to live.
Look outside. That house?
2725 on the second floor.
Two.
Thanks for watching. Let's grow together.